So, welcome. How are you doing, Mike?
Welcome to you, Jack. Happy Friday to you. Yeah, we're here in Chicago. We are getting over some heat wave. But anyway, you doing okay? You getting out? You getting to the pool? No, nothing.
Yeah, actually, yeah, a little
Good.
bit, yeah. So,
I got my pool pass. I can do my 15 minutes or so of splashing around, and then
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it does the trick.
yeah. And actually, the pools around my place are not very crowded this year, so I don't know what happened, but
Oh.
just fewer people.
Well, I was had a moment the other day that I thought, well, so I'm just got out of the pool. I'm kind of drying off. I'm sitting in my deck chair or whatever it's called, right? And this lovely young lady comes over like right in front of me and just starts to wave at me, like that, kind of like getting my attention. And I'm looking at her eyes. She's looking right at me, right? And I'm looking at her and I'm sort of like, she's going, hi, kind of like that. And I'm like, do I know this person? And I don't. I don't think I do, but I have a terrible memory sometimes. So I'm sitting there like, what in the world could be happening? Like, why is this person beckoning to me? And then turn and see it's her husband and her newborn in the cradle, and she's waving at them. And so just somehow I thought of this as a Chevy Chase moment, I thought it was me. So I just got up and said, oh, I thought this was about me, but I can see now it wasn't, haha, and I left. Anyway, to me, very amusing. I don't know, it doesn't happen every day.
Chase. Yeah, definitely Chevy Chase kind of a situation, but
I am hardly Chevy Chase though, so I didn't think that would occur, but I still thought it was
pretty soon you're gonna be famous, right? There's, these conversations gonna reach maybe 10 people, who knows?
Speaking of which, thank you. I just completed this wonderful event. 500 people signed up, and of which 250 attended, which is even more amazing. And I found weirdly that seems to be a thing now, because I also am so grateful to have reached 10,000 people clicking on my articles this month, of which, of course, not only half, and half. Anyway, it diminishes, right? Once they see that it's a 10-minute read about something complicated, they usually click away, but it's still very gratifying. I'm happy. And I will tell you, reactions very positive, a lot of people engaged. I'm not used to this, but when you're presenting, it didn't present it in the right way, which, sorry, I just don't like Zoom. What is with Zoom? It's really annoying. Anyway, I wanted me to be, I've designed it so I could be there with the slide, if that makes sense. And instead it put it over my slide. And then it just was, anyway, I'll do it better next time. How's that? It's this, it's like us, we're in the split screen, right? We got two of us, but when you get into video editing, you could tighten it up a little bit. But lots of good responses. I think the questions were all really good. A lot of people, because of the ethical issues, or at least the idea of energy wasting has always been big. And I think this is just a dig at Zuckerberg, which I don't mind, because Zuckerberg, I never can figure out what he's up to, right? He's always doing something. Anyway, he's supposed to be destroying the environment to build an AI center. I guess that seems about par for the course for him, but whatever. It doesn't, to me and you, right? We can I told you can run a model locally. So it's like, it doesn't have to use a ton of energy.
Well, I saw an interesting picture somewhere, on one of the social media kind of streams. And I think it was from Elon, and he was showing the inside of the new data center that he's building. And this had like such a Blade Runner, kind of like
I know.
Matrix vibe, those huge racks, and it's
with a
beyond
lot of
beyond
LED
fear.
lighting, that you can change the
Yeah,
colors and blink. Yeah, I know.
yeah. So it's definitely, if there's a matrix or Skynet emerging somewhere, it's gonna be in those rooms. Like they are like Gothic temples of modern technology.
I think it's basically interior designers that know how to get paid, and good for them, right? Like the more bling you make it look like, it obviously is going to appeal to people who grew up watching Blade Runner. You see what I mean? Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
all because truthfully, like computers don't care,
yeah.
right? I mean, they don't need any. They just need to be serviced. And weirdly, these big data centers that are going up here, they almost are all completely unmanned, right? That's what's sort of fun about them. Like they are just boxes that you put computers in because they're. You remember the server room when we came up, right? Like it's an
Mm.
unpleasant place because it's so hot that it
Yeah,
kind of has to be whatever. Anyway, but yes, it,
yeah.
it is funny.
But it was kind of attractive, if you are kind of in a computer science kind of area, you are a student and you're kind of reading about those supercomputers, then those rooms
They
had a
should look
little bit of
cool, right?
an
They should look
appeal.
better than they
Yeah,
do. Not a bunch of
yeah,
Dell Inspiron workstations like we used to have, right? Those kind of gray boxes. Yeah,
yeah,
you're right. No, as I said,
yeah.
I'm a big fan of interior design, but yeah.
Those cry supercomputers from the 90s, they were really cool looking, right?
Oh,
You
great.
could,
Yeah, of
yeah,
course. And think of how
yeah,
little they could do, which makes them even more
yeah.
impressive, right?
And then the Silicon Graphics workstations, like those
Those were
mini
cool.
computers.
Sure.
Those were
Next,
so
Next
cool.
had a
Yeah,
moment,
yeah.
they had the
Next
little
was
Next
great.
box.
Yeah, yeah. Good
Still,
old times. Yeah.
nothing compared to a basic phone nowadays, which is even more amazing, right?
Or basic gaming computer,
Oh,
that
a gaming
my
computer.
kids are using. uh,
Right. No,
so yeah.
no, those I do have a guy on YouTube I love called DIY Perks. It's not a great name, but he builds his own computers and he just built, in fact, a desk where none of the devices need power. It all comes through magnetic fields. And so he built a computer inside of it. He's really fun to watch. Your kids might like it, by the way. DIY Perks. He's
All
great
right.
because he wants just like you said, he wants to make things cool looking, but he'll use technology and he knows how to do it, which is what's even better because he'll show you how to make it. But yeah, I've been watching him for years and he'll do the most amazing. He does a lot of water cooled stuff because it's like, yeah,
Mm.
how do you manage these things are beasts. Anyway, so water usage and basically the one thing that people seem to really like, which I'm happy, is I had my kind of big reveal is that AI is an amplifier, literally. I have an amplifier there. And
Mm.
it's just the feeling of that if you try to play the acoustic guitar, trust me, you will get frustrated very quickly because it's very hard to do, right? Like you will not sound good for quite a long time. You won't be able to do anything interesting sounding for quite a long time to yourself. However, if you get an electric guitar and an amplifier, you will have much more fun. You still might not be good at the guitar, but you might enjoy learning to play the guitar, which is even more fun. And that's
Mm.
my AI metaphor, right? Like,
That's exactly right. That's exactly what I did with my kids. I wanted them to play a couple of instruments, and one of them was guitar. So I transitioned them directly into electric guitars because of the very reasons.
yeah, and pedals. Come on, why not, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, distortion pedal is cool. Yeah.
Yeah, you could spend all night with a distortion pedal and one note and just you know what I mean? Like
Mm.
that's the fun
Yeah.
of it all, right? Like you're
Yeah.
just
Yeah. Yeah. You feel like Eddie Van Halen. Yeah.
That's true. And so that did come across and that I think that someone had a neutral positive to a positive. I tried to say like where do you feel right now? Because one thing I'm noting in the news, and we do need to get into our topic. Our topic today is to figure out our talk that we're going to do together next month, right? So
Mm.
we have some candidates. I'm going to go through them with you, right? And we're going to try to see what's going to capture the imagination of the crowd. And so many people were already positive, and one person said they got more positive from the talk, which is nice to hear, because I was asking, like, did anyone change their mind, right? Because oftentimes you can, like this, you can just talk, and if you don't care, right, people can just tune you out. But I do care, and I wanted to try to get something across. So it was very much, I just went into kind of where we started and where you started, of course, which is ML. And ML being around for whatever 40 some odd years and very challenging, and nobody wanted to do it, and it was not the boom time for that area as it was for many other things, certainly distributed systems and telecommunication. There were so many fields that were hotter, right? So this was the hard, long term play. Good for you, right? Because long term, it worked out.
Yeah.
It wasn't quick. Yet I still say generative AI, and so my second part was generative AI, and the attention algorithm is profound. I still am amazed, and it has in fact informed my whole worldview because it is so odd.
Well, it may turn out, right? Like I was kind of thinking a little bit about those early papers about, the attention, is all you need and all that stuff. Right? It might be actually the case that human brain is a next token predictor. It may actually boil down to that, yeah. And then, then we're gonna be, it will be difficult then to refute the argument that this is not real AI, right? Like this is not real intelligence, right? This is kind of something like that can be diminished by just saying, oh, it's different, right, from us.
Well, but you bring up, I think, what my last article was about, and I'll just say 100%. Yes, I think mechanically, absolutely, right? And not only mechanically in our brains, but I think it's also mechanically interesting in the universal sense. And that's my whole weird side job, is recreating the laws of the universe, right? So, but that's interesting. I mean, that what's important to me and to any listeners, I'm planting the seed. It's noise, right? Noise is signal. That's what I think it embraced finally, because as you know from ML, it's very brute forcey. It needs really good data. Like it's just the same empirical Euclidean world, right? Like you don't get out more than you put in, right? And even though you can synthesize some data, let's kind of give what's his name a break, it still doesn't work in very complex systems. So I did an example where I had a graphic that was one of my ratings in class, and it just had a statement, and then it had a graph, and I was like, hey, I interpret this graph this way, right? Because that's what we do. We're like, oh, it looks like, you're good at what you do or you're bad or whatever, right? Like 1-star review. See what I mean? So I threw this into GPT and I just said, put this into words. And what's stunning, of course, is that it did a great job. You can bet, right? Like it took this, parsed it properly, everything. What's stunning to me still, if you tried to program that, where would you even start? You see what I mean? Just take any random picture, figure out what's in it, and then describe to me what it means. Is impossible as a computing task. Fair, right? Like if you gave that to me, I'd just be like, yeah, sure. If you could do that, you could make build or whatever. It's impossible. Let's put it that way. But it did it, of course, and we both know, well, yeah, it doesn't have any trouble with stuff like that. How weird, right? Like things that humans could never figure out how to do, but we do it in our brains. So I'm getting back to the point. The point is, the last thing I wrote about is our sensory abilities. What it won't have and will never have is that we're good at cognitively understanding the world around us, right? We sense constantly, right? So we're constantly bringing in info, and we manage to deal with it pretty well while juggling and running to work or cooking dinner. You see what I mean? Like we're good at what is important to humans, which is the world we live in, which is why I hate separating out cognitive ability. Something like, AGI doesn't seem like a thing, because well, they can't do anything, right? And our idea that we're going to give them arms and legs and they're going to run around and win football games or something, that's a little silly, because we already can do that, right? We have humans that can win football games. And that's kind of the point, right? There isn't many situations in the real world where intelligence like that is immediately applicable into decision making. Whereas we make it again when we're also emotional, right? We sense things. So all I'm saying is we have a lot of abilities that we immediately forget that we have. Does that make sense, right? Because we think super intelligence is a thing. Well, you're both nodding and not nodding. So go ahead. You can give it to me.
Well, so never say never, right? There is I think a Bond movie there, but
That's
um,
right. Sean Connery's come back. Yeah,
yeah.
let's.
But I think that today, right? I think we are in agreement today, right? But
Mhm.
we can kind of maybe look at some areas where there is huge streams of data that are just waiting for AI to kind of being hooked up to. Like, for example, it may not be about cooking or cleaning or kind of doing everyday work, but apparently there is like terabytes of per second of data that is captured by cars, by self-driving cars. There's terabytes captured by the satellites that are kind of around this planet that could give us much better weather prediction and all that stuff. So, and that's kind of going into some hard drive somewhere, and that stuff is never looked at. There's also maybe kind of like a little bit ominous data about the meteors and all that cosmic junk that is floating around us, and some of it is even kind of quite big, but still we have no abilities to track it. So I think, so the AI, with the current generative architectures would be relatively easy to kind of do it, because to your point, we don't have to teach the AI how a meteor looks like, right?
Hmm.
It already knows from all the training data. So the training has been done through Jensen's GPUs, and that problem that we had, like 20 years ago, like, oh, here's a picture of a sandwich, and the AI needs to recognize that this is a burger versus something else. It was a big problem, but it was still the same problem. It was knowledge that needed to be kind of like available for an AI system. But now that thing is in the box, or
Mhm.
even if it is not in the box, it's very easy to kind of build metadata with generative capabilities to actually show all the possible shapes of meteors, and if it is kind of like similar to maybe International Space Station, then oh, that's a different category, right? So yeah, I think we are getting there, especially with the autonomous stuff, like robotics, and self-driving cars will get really close to the examples that you're talking about, where maybe in the edge computing environment, in a few years, maybe your electric autonomous car will have a very powerful GPU, and it's going to be standard, and it's going to be kind of like, up until this time, maybe, oh, well, how much horsepower your car has, it's V8 or V10, or maybe now in a few years it's going to be, oh, so what's the GPU on board, on this car that may define its capability to be a safe autonomous driver versus maybe less safe.
Hmm. Well, I think this is what we should focus on in our talk, because I do
Mhm.
appreciate this, and I think maybe you don't see it as much as I do, but I think you have that wonderful engineer's point of view, right? Which is
Mm.
things are the problem in this universe. And I'm like, boy, things are the least of our problems in this universe. It's actually prioritization and long-term planning. Boy, if you could have AI help you decide in your company where to invest in people and resources for the next 10 years, to
Mm.
me, that would be a miracle, because we both know that does not happen,
Mm.
right? It's not part of our operating system for some reason. Maybe in education, right? But even then, we are often blindsided by things that we weren't expecting, and that's where strategy, I mean, I teach in a strategy
Mm.
degree, so I like the word, right? It's this idea that you can have a plan and things can go wrong, but you shouldn't change the goals of the plan. You should just adjust to the current situation, and that's where strong team strong teams are really important. Whereas you can start to see, even in our last discussion, these things being devalued, right? People are just, oh, they're all going to be replaced by, you see what I mean? Like I'm not contradicting you, Jack. I just think it's a wonderful uh,
Yeah, yeah,
contrast to the way we think of things.
exactly. I mean, you are very humanistic in your kind of attitude, and I am more algorithmic. And when you mention planning, immediately I look at the shelf that I have, with AI books, and there's probably, like Nielsen. I don't know if you can see this, but Nielsen's AI book,
Uh-huh.
it has a chapter on planning, right? So it would be a sin for me not to take that chapter that is in that book and try to make it operational within a generative algorithm. So it's not going to be some just random planning that
Oh,
GPT-5 will
right. Well,
give me.
by the way,
Right?
generative
Yeah,
means you can make it up. That's what I keep
yeah,
telling them. Like
exactly. Yeah,
it
yeah.
isn't predestined, right? It
Mm.
is a choose your own adventure, which is the things we as people, I think, have a really hard time with, right? We don't like unpredictability. I think, literally hate to change, right? That's what's funny is
Mm.
like how AGI is going to change everything. And just to your point, I'm like, hey, if we all had self-driving cars, unfortunately, then we still have cars, which, you know what I mean? Like, it didn't solve anything. Cars were the issue of how do we have autonomous at on-demand uh, transportation when we should just be building beautiful cities with plenty of rail. And you know what I mean? I mean, it's the American versus European approach, right? Which is, hey, we need $1 billion to build a subway so that over years people will be able to get back and forth to different areas or whatever
Mm.
people do that we don't do because we're just like, we just need more cars, you know?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. I grew up in Europe, and I honestly, I probably thought that I will never afford the car, maybe in the first place,
Oh,
but
and you didn't need
secondly,
to. You didn't need.
I
My
didn't
kids don't
need to.
have cars. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but a bike, kind of is a very good solution, right? Um, so yeah, I understand, but then there is the question also. Okay, so where is the data coming from? And I think in your mind, maybe the data, maybe even if it exists about planning, operations within an enterprise, that data may not exist, right? And
Right.
I
You
think
you never
my
tried shutting the thing down and only having it a bike lane for a year because what happens is when you do that, people start biking. That's
Yeah,
what's so
exactly.
weird,
Yeah.
right? Like people follow the flow, whereas when you build a bigger highway, what happens? More people buy cars.
Mm.
So it kind of defeats, right? You're trying to think like, God, it's so crowded now. If we just added more lanes, this
Yeah.
I think is why I love generative AI because I think it can see through some of our biases around this predictive nonsense, right? Instead of saying, oh, actually, probably something even weirder will happen, and this is a better way to spend the $5 billion
Mm.
to do this instead or something. I mean, I don't know. Again, I'm very much trusting of AI as not being as biased as we are. That's all, like
Mm.
just because it's got more info maybe or maybe I don't know. The prompting is working really. I don't know why it would be better, but probably the prompts are pretty good to
Yeah.
say these things are not good even though they're said quite a lot. You see,
Mm.
like we might say some bad things quite a bit, but probably they've trained it. Anyway, can we go into and thank you again for letting us be sparring. We're not sparring. We're not
No,
sparring.
we are not.
Yeah, I just want to go into topics because I know we had one and I have a few more. Do you mind giving me and I want gladiator style, okay?
Okay. All right. But
This
remember, if you give me more than three, then I'm gonna lose it. So uh,
Okay, hint to the viewers, I think you're going to reject all these, but I think it's going to be funny. Okay, this is for laughs, right? So we started with agentic AI, and I did hint at it at the end of the talk, and I think it might be a little advanced. That's all. Like I think we know that agentic AI is pretty far-fetched at the moment, even though probably in a couple years we'll see more use cases for this, maybe. I don't know. But put it on the back burner, okay? We'll just say back
Okay,
burner, right?
okay. Yeah, I mean, agentic AI, I think is, yeah, so I disagree with you here. So I think it's not far-fetched. I think
Oh no,
there's some
no, no.
power.
I just mean its human part is harder than the
Okay, yeah,
agentic
yeah,
part.
yeah, yeah. Oh, obviously, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
and that's all because I think it's
Mhm.
the uncanny valley, right? Like the minute it gets
Mhm.
starts to get weird, we get freaked out, right? It's why Alexa
Mhm.
doesn't say, "Hey, Michael." Well, it does now. "Hey, Michael, are you have a great day?" You know what I mean? Like it's very hard to personalize, right? Because it isn't that aware. Either way, it's
Yeah, and
why
it's
Apple's
it's
struggling, right?
it's
Like
such a flop, that Alexa, it's such a flop, I mean, it's kind of, maybe it boiled down to exactly the planning within the enterprise. Like they did not understand that they had like a platform that can be like a really wonderful conversational agentic, wise, fun, therapeutic, kind of platform that is already in so many people's living rooms. So I really don't understand what happened there.
I'm just saying from what I've experienced in the talk, just remember people are just getting there. Like we're those weird outliers as always, right? Like we've been in this
Mm.
for a couple of years now and delved very deeply, if not way too deep. Um, and also when you started with three and you tried something and then it's also about how people's mental models work. That's a big deal, right? What do they think it does? And when anything is proactive, be careful. That's all. I just think people when a computer gets proactive, it goes HAL 9000 on you really quick. You know it, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, they
yeah.
think it's gonna, it's got some agenda now, right? It just is weird. It's a mental model problem, but we can still keep it on the books because it's fun to talk about, right? So now here
Oh,
here's
okay.
here's where Gladiator. You remember? Okay. Let's see. Uh, the next generation of AI products will be born at the intersection of rigorous RL research and fearless product design. This talk explores how to tight co-design loops where scientists prototype and users immediately probe. Let's build evaluation metrics to measure real-world usability of AI systems, not what benchmarks record. So the reason I'm mentioning it, this is
Mm.
their CS25 Stanford's course in AI. And these are each week what they talk about.
Mm.
Um, okay, really? You just
Yeah,
in a day
okay.
prototype ideas? Okay. I don't know. I don't have anything against using AI to evaluate usability, or do I? No, I guess I'm in that camp. Yeah, we'll give this a
Okay.
meh. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, well, I always have a little bit of a problem when they say real world or real evaluation benchmarks versus,
from
you
who?
know, yeah, and yeah, what do you mean, right? How is it different? Like, I mean, one of the hardest ones recently that popped up was the International Mathematics Olympics, where the AI was given those hardest out of
Oh,
the
right.
hardest
It got
questions.
second place. I saw,
Yes,
right?
that
Yeah.
got 6 out of 7, but
Maybe we should
really,
teach it to play football. Football is very dangerous. Maybe it is
yeah.
better to have robots do it.
But then really, yeah, exactly. But then really, I mean, the evaluation was kind of like nobody really knows, whether those answers were correct because apparently there was a rubric for the answers, but they were such a high flying math problems that perhaps the rubric was inadequate either. So yeah, that's
Okay,
that's that's
what
kind
is
of
it
hard.
again? The weak gold. Anyway, whatever the conjecture. Yeah, I love watching videos about this, right? It's all these unsolved problems in math, but they're really interesting why they're unsolved, right? Like it's always going to be some sort of prime proof thing or something where it's sort of more fundamental to what math is talking about rather than it just being this fun thing we made up, right?
Mm.
That's why we're talking about geometry. Like outside of its usefulness, it isn't more useful, but you can sort of push it.
Yeah.
The advent of AGI. Okay, here we go. DivGuard. AGI Incorporated, by the way. I should say who's doing
Mm.
this talk. As superintelligence seems round the corner and frontier models continue to scale, a new wave of autonomous AI agents is emerging, systems capable of perceiving, reasoning, and acting in open-ended environments. These agents represent first steps toward artificial general intelligence to reshape the interface and get things done in the world. Well, that could be our
That's very
talk.
nice. That's very nice. Yeah, very well formulated. Um,
What a bunch of crap. But okay, sure, get things done in the world. Have you lived in this world, Div gang? Probably not, right? But yeah, this world scope. But we can do it. You're in. You still like agentic
well,
AGI?
just the first sentence. I mean, it would be fun to
Super.
define AGI just by
Okay.
itself. Well, big topic, right? Yeah. So yeah.
Where's your gladiator? Okay, all right. Okay, this one is a good. We could just copy and paste this, right? We could talk about this, and I can definitely, we can get our how many robot movies can we mention in this talk about getting things done, Alexa
Yeah.
style or HAL 9000 style? Which kind of things would you like to get done? Oh, not you, Alexa. Yeah, leave me alone.
Yeah,
Okay.
or maybe kind of like the Blade Runner robots, right? Like there was
Right. By
there
the
was
way,
like
why were they robots? Because they had to go mine or something? Anyway, I don't know.
yeah, because there was like ammunition loading robots or shoveling,
Something.
coal
I
robots.
know. And I'm
But
like,
then
we're
there
good
was
at that kind of stuff. Why not
but then there
hire
was
us to do
Roy
it?
that was very kind of like didn't want to die, right? So
It's all Rutger Hauer's fault. Poor guy.
yeah,
Okay.
I mean he came up with those lines, at the end of the
I
movie,
know.
right?
I know.
So
Yeah.
that's good. Yeah, I liked it.
Okay, so what does it mean to design agents that collaborate with us effectively and help empower us even as they become more capable? We're all in this together. Human agency, Eric Zellman. Anyway, make us more capable. What lessons can we learn from past advances, and what role can academia play in understanding these dynamics and frameworks? Let's talk about how things have evolved so far. In some ways, they might still evolve.
That sounds like a topic for a dissertation, not for one meeting. But
Yeah.
that thing with kind of interaction between the agent and the human, just by itself could be an interesting proposition.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we could, if we stick with agents, we obviously have a good calling card. We can just copy div garg. It's div garg? Anyway, copy
Or
his
even better, kind of ethical agents. So that would be a good topic, right? Like, hey, how do you build ethical agents that are easy to work with?
You know what you do is you control people's bank's account and you null them out when they behave badly. That's a great AI right there, right?
That's AGI,
By the way, do you know why people want self-driving cars? So they stop getting automatic parking tickets. I don't know if everyone else lives in the world where have you ever gotten one of those? I mean, I get them all the time. In fact, my son would go do gig work at one point, and every day he would rack up more in speeding fines than he would make from doing gig work. And I thought, this is the perfect world, right? Like you just fine people in order for, it's that company store mentality, right? You work all day long and then you can buy your food from us, right? But yes, I think that's pretty much what AI would do, is to control us, because that's how to control us, right? Yeah. Anyway, all right. So we can fit that in. We're not unhappy. We said large language model reasoning by Denny Zhao from DeepMind. High-level overview of reasoning in large language models, focusing on motivations, core ideas, and current limitations. No prior background is required. Well, while Denny, I mean, talk about phoning it in. Like, talk about whatever, Denny. Jeez. Okay. Anyway,
well, so I don't
reasoning?
know. I mean, that would be hard, right? Like, what are the motivations in the training set that comes from, let's say, Wikipedia? What are the motivations of that data set, right? I mean, we would have to kind of get really specific on something, and then try to. But
it was a question that I didn't answer properly, but it was that back to, it's just a bunch of numbers in a big you know what I mean? Like there isn't anything in there that you could tease out reasonably, but you could say, hey, I was trained on me personally as a human, right? I was trained on a bunch of stuff, right? A few handhold of things makes a difference to me and my personality, right? Maybe a particular book I read or a show I saw. You see what I mean, right? But that
Mm,
doesn't mean I didn't experience tons of garbage, right? I watched all those stupid shows on TV and I don't remember them. You see what I mean? Like I
mm,
had tons of noise, right? So I think what's interesting, at least to me, metaphorically, right, is you should train it on everything. Like Wikipedia, I'm sure has tons of junk in it, right? Like it isn't
yeah.
policed in any way.
Mm,
It's only that the things that matter are a little more policed, but that's not empirically true, right? It's just it is what it is, you know? And that's why
mm,
I do a lot of work in physics, because I'm assuming they have figured out physics by now, right? 120 years or so. They've got it down, you know? So I'm fine with it being more empirically true than other things like AI, right? Like it's very hard to get a clear answer because I don't know the difference between 3 and 4.0, but it's a definitely a big difference, but I don't really know how they got
mm,
it to be better. If they trained it on all of the New York Times, it's still a bunch of thes and ands though. See what I mean? Like
mm.
what does originality mean in this context? Or even veracity doesn't mean anything, does it?
Yeah, yeah, and a politically driven content, it's even all over the
Yeah.
place, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
it's
it's
always
just
so and so is a dumb dumb and
it's
so and so
not a
is even
true. Yeah.
worse. Like that's not like gonna
So that's
jump.
noise, right? It might be noise
It's
because this is
noise.
going
Of
to be,
course it's
yeah,
noise, right?
yeah.
You know, what was the opinion of the policies of uh Lyndon Baines Johnson? I'll go try that one in an LLM and see what it says, right? It's probably just gonna toe a line and quote Wikipedia, as I think that would be how you train it when it comes to hot topics, right? You know, but if you got into a long discussion, said, well, hey, but LBJ did this thing or that thing, and it's like, yeah, they did. Maybe they're a complicated or whatever. You see what I mean? It's like everything's gonna get deeper the deeper you go, which is why a chat interface is a great thing, right? A context window is amazing, which back to agentic, right? Imagine a
Mm,
context window for the rest of your life, Jack. Just beware,
yeah,
man.
yeah.
Okay. Oh boy, are we? All right, we're still. God, I guess we're still on agentic. Large language. Oh, on the biology of large language models. Josh Baston from Anthropic. Large language models do many things. It's not clear from black box interactions how they do them. We'll discuss recent progress in mechanistic interpretability, an approach to understanding models based on decomposing them into pieces, understanding the role of the pieces, and understanding behaviors based on how those pieces fit together. I mean, we went through this, didn't we, with the whole,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. We went through
different
this, and
models for different whatevers. I don't find that super fascinating. Do you? I don't know.
yeah, it's kind of an old field in AI. There was a field called KBANNs, knowledge-based artificial neural networks, where you could actually look at the weights in the neural network and kind of infer the
Oh,
the reasoning process, right? But that was not a powerful architecture. Nobody used it for anything big. So I think he is maybe kind of going in that direction, like, hey, maybe we can have those modules kind of separated and then query them separately and then see what comes out, right? So yeah, that is a very technical issue
yeah.
that it's hard to evaluate at this time.
Yeah. Well, and also I mean I think people forget it's multimodal, right? Like it doesn't know English any better than it knows Swahili, right? Like it doesn't care and it
Yeah.
doesn't matter if it puts a picture out. That's what's so bizarre about it, right? Like it's
Mm,
almost like us, like say, "Oh well, I think the best way to answer your question, Jack, is with a song."
mm,
And that's basically what GPT does to me all the time because I kind of told it that I, I like I like poems. So now
mm,
everything ends with a poem and I'm like, okay, that good for you, right? Like, but that's the point, right? Is why do we have any modes of communication other than to say, well, this doesn't really fit this mode of communication. You know, I don't know. It seems more like about us than about AGI, but it is weird that it doesn't care, right? It is really weird, don't you think?
Well, so I always answer this point that you are kind of bringing up with a scene with Terminator, where I think John asks Arnold whether he feels pain, and the answer is, well, I have a data structure that collects the damage done to my body, right? That data can be interpreted as pain.
Hmm. Okay. Well, that's my AI joke, right? It's
Mm.
47 or whatever. You know, it's
You think,
like
yeah, yeah.
okay, so no, so far we're still on AGI. Got it. Multimodal world models for drug discovery. Where are all the cancer drugs? The past decade's been astounding in machine learning. Um, Transformer-based models can do great things. At the same time, the field of cancer biology has enjoyed rapid improvement in the cost, speed, and resolution of once futuristic measurement tools. Noetic AI, this sounds like another grifter, right? I mean, I don't know. Yeah, people want a cure for everything, but isn't the cure for everything always prevention? Am I just, you know? Anyway.
Well, I think that yeah, that there's something to it. Although Ray Kurzweil, I think he believes that you can change your body chemistry in a way that is going to slow down or reverse
Ray,
aging.
Ray would think that, wouldn't he? Ray?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So so yeah, I think he is doing things like that. But yeah, I think you are right. And
I think
but
it's
yeah, I
fun.
mean,
Again, it would be
as
great for everything to be cured, but then there'd be another thing. I don't know. I mean,
but as a topic, we would have to dive into
yeah, we don't.
biological sciences.
I
So
don't know
probably,
anything about
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Although I did mention my experience with my blood test and GPT and all that stuff and diet. And I was just like, well, I think if you have some sort of interesting correlation in a minor way, like what's a good exercise to do for this particular physical therapy thing, and you couldn't afford to go to a doctor, let's just put it that way. If you couldn't afford to
Mm,
go to a doctor, please talk to GPT. I guess that's what I'm saying. Like, that's a great way rather than going to the internet and looking at all the
yeah.
scams out there, why not have the dialogue with GPT to ask, how do I alleviate pressure on my back or something? You see what I
Mm,
mean? Like, I don't have any problem with it. Maybe I'm being a little nice to GPT, but I still think it's better than grifters, right? Like, everybody wants to sell you protein powder for some reason, right? But they don't want to tell you why or how it makes you healthier, because that would be, you know, that would be useful. Or something. I don't know. I'm too skeptical. How about this? Diffusion models for image generation. Here's your favorite. Hugging Face. Sayak Paul from Hugging Face is going to talk about diffusion models being all the rage in generating realistic and continuous media content. It covers how transformers are used in diffusion models for image generation. We don't.
Yeah, so get through that. I mean, probably our audience wouldn't
Yeah, they
enjoy this
wouldn't
because we
care.
would have to get into math and linear algebra.
So interesting. So we really ended up, and the other one's about video models, right? But so this is Transformers United version 5, the hottest seminar course featuring Hinton, Ashish Vashwani, Ajay Karpathy, Andre,
Mm.
and popular, and everyone's free to audit. Maybe that's why, right? Everybody can audit. Good for you. What is this? Good for you, Stanford. But the topics, Transformers United. I'm not impressed. Are you? I
I don't
guess.
know.
It's
I
a lot of
mean, they know the audience probably better, so maybe it's what the audience wants.
well, this is my other issue, or not issue, but my other challenge, which I'm going to talk about shortly, is trying to develop a course. And the course is going to be a strategy course. And my tactic immediately when I came up with it was to deal with qualitative information, right? It's that idea
Mm.
that here's this graph that I'm going to interpret as that I'm a really good teacher. You know, I'm nice to myself. I like to compliment myself. But you know what I mean? Like you're going to
Yeah,
try
yeah,
to,
totally.
yeah, you're going to try to buy this product based on a bunch of reviews. Same thing, right? Like you're going to try to correlate a very blunt and really bad system of numerics into having some meaning. You see what I mean? Like we're going to say that 4 stars is better than 3 stars. And I'm like, no, contextually, they have almost nothing to do with each other because they're just mental models, and everyone's mental model of good is should be different, right? I mean, it should be. Good for a kid is more sugar. Good for me is highly different. So right, how can you contextually make it relevant? I said, well, maybe we have the tool now, right? We have a thing where we can do qualitative analysis of large groups of data, maybe data that's not that isn't automatically correlated with things like comments, like, hey, they never showed up to class. You know, were you enjoying this class? No. You see what I mean? Like it can't correlate why,
Yeah.
but not that's no problem for generative AI, right? Its correlation skills are off the charts, and I'm always amazed,
Yeah.
right? Like it can
And
correlate anything.
it
Oh,
can explain itself. So yeah.
absolutely. And it can get things wrong, but it's still like, hey, better than me doing it because I'm just going to bias it anyway, right? Because what else would you do with a bunch of numbers? Oh, it seems like there's 300 4-star ratings. I should buy it. Oh, wait, this one has 3,000 3-star ratings. I should see what I mean? Like we always are doing this. So I want to develop a course in exploring how to use qualitative data to make decisions.
Yeah.
So I
And
think
that's, yeah,
not a bad
not a bad idea.
idea,
Yeah.
but I'm still like, I have to teach it and I have to come up with stuff for people to do. So that's where I'm struggling. Because when the minute of course I got the spreadsheet of all the comments and everything, it's a spreadsheet with other things, I'm like immediately threw it into GPT and I'm like, here, tell me this, that, and the other thing about it. And I don't know if you do that as well, but I know people are trying to summarize your emails, and I know Microsoft is flailing around as it somehow always does with this, of trying to do something useful but probably making it worse. Uh, but maybe not. I don't know. Have they had any wins? I'm not in a Microsoft world that often. I know things are really good within VS Code. People still, that seems like a pretty useful world. I think the people in it are pretty aligned on how to make it good. Although I'm still never sure which model to use. I don't know. Everybody's fighting it out between Claude and
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and the correct answer is probably combine all the outputs, right?
yeah.
If
Is
you
there one
can.
of those yet? Is there one of these shop it around and find the best answer algorithms out there? I, I
You
wouldn't
know,
know, but
probably, but that's what I'm doing in my work, right? Like
okay.
if I need to generate like a piece of metadata, I go to local resources, let's say within the organization, and
Mhm.
kind of get those and as metadata context. But then the to your point, you coined the term, like a making sense engine, right? So then, do I want to have only one of those that kind of is munching on the context? No, probably I would like to have maybe a flagship from here, a flagship from there. If the flagship is too expensive and the problem is small, maybe I will kind of pick something like a smaller open source model, maybe do something locally, to your point. So yeah, I think that the workflow here, why just use one model, right? I mean, that
Oh,
is,
well, and I'm 100% with you, although I find that sooner or later you have trained all of the models and how to make you happy. So you have to keep finding new models. It's sort of like friends. It's like once they know once they know the things that you are into, they're not as open anymore, right? And that is funny, I
yeah,
think, about these models is we both, I think we both agreed, like, I think we kind of reached a little saturation in some ways where they can't get too much better because as we said, this contextual window is enormous. It's literally life itself, right? The contextual window of me getting a flight next month is completely different from me being stuck at the airport. You know what I mean? Like they're just not at all similar, but the computer can't rethink the world because it doesn't live in it, right? It's only going to get as many thes or an ands and whatever's as needed to fulfill the prompt, you know? So its DNA is
Yeah,
pretty close, yeah.
and what might happen is something similar to what happened with Google search engine, where they were started collecting information about you, profiling your previous interactions. So then you just type in the search window blah, right, and it will give you correct answer to whatever you meant. So the same probably is going to be happening with LLMs.
Right. And I think that's some people's ethical concern, right? Is it just going to tell you what you want to hear? And I'm like, well, yeah, but that's what you want it to do. If it told you something you did not understand, it would be sort of out of scope. You know what I mean? Like that's why I said I've listened to every Chromie record known to man, as well as the great ones, right? What makes one great? It's nothing. It's my own preference, right? There's no empirical reason that I like something more than another. But once you see my taste, you might not recommend some, whatever, right? Like, here's my favorite record, Michael, is probably the least fruitful thing someone could do, because it wouldn't, I would have probably heard it and probably not liked it, or whatever. And that's fine, because I still enjoy people that are passionate about music. That's the important part, right? It's not about do you get the same thrill out of this chord change that I do? No, I mean, I don't, but more power to you. It's all wonderful, right? And that's, I think, hard for something like an LLM, of course, because it doesn't have any of this context, and it never will. That's another unfortunate, unless it's very agentic and it just watches everything we do. Like, I saw a thing today, and I don't know why I found this interesting, but I'll say it was a person, these people who go and they do videos and they're in very, very tall places and they have cams on so that you see them. And I'm very terrified of high places. So when you're watching them and they're walking down ladders and they're walking across like beams, you know what I mean? And I'm just there terrified, right? It's just a picture, but I'm terrified. Except today when I was realizing, like, well, if you did that every day, you'd get used to it. You'd normalize it, right? Like, you wouldn't see it the way I see it, because it's very rare. I never go up
Yeah.
huge ladders and cross tall buildings. But if you did it every day for a few years, guess what? As with everything with being human, you were like, oh yeah, whatever, another day. Nothing special about risking instant death to do this thing. And I think that's what's fabulous about these models, right? It's normalizing. It's also Shannon, right? Because maybe it gets surprised every once in a while. I don't know if you've ever surprised it. I got it to curse the other day, which was really weird. I was like, wait, you get to now say holy shit? I mean, is that a thing that an LLM should do? But I was like, oh, okay. You're just being enthusiastic, I guess, right? But I don't know. I mean, beats me. Have you ever got it to curse at you about anything?
No, I actually never did.
I
I kind
know.
of assumed,
I think it
although
was because I
I'm,
was being very clever. So maybe I get an outlier.
yeah.
I don't.
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's true. But I think, to your point, the existence of context. Yeah, again, I don't know if never is something that I would say. I mean, you can probably kind of think about the situation where you put into the training set the works of the Beatles and the other giants like maybe Deep Purple, and
Ozzy.
Hendrix, Jimmy, yeah,
See
Ozzy,
Ozzy.
rest in peace.
And say,
Um,
build me a Beatles Ozzy hybrid, and you would get out of it half the music that's already been made, right?
Yeah, and many, yeah, exactly. Many people who teach music or do theoretical work about music will say, oh, those are the foundations that you should be able to hear in a lot of other music that is created today. So that would be a wonderful context for an LLM that talks about music. And probably these kind of things are happening. I actually am doing a little bit of work with the sequencers where, I got MIDI code that I have in a sequencer, and then I kind of plug it into an LLM and kind of say, hey, give me another phrase or build me an extension of that sequencer rhythm that I built. Right? It's kind of fun to do, and then I can ask a question. Hey, so let's do a Jimmy Page sequence, next, right? I mean, these kind of things you can hear a little bit, what comes up.
No, and I love that, because I also think that's what's interesting about the first voice. I don't do the voice as much as I used to, but the first voice for GPT was the Scarlett Johansson voice from that movie Her, where they synthesized her voice. And what's interesting about voices, of course, is the noise, right? They're not perfect. They have weird noise characteristics that we pick up on instantly, right? Since we can recognize maybe tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of unique voices, which is still like, we can tell when John's singing, you know what I mean? Like it's kind of weird when you think of a superpower that we can discern, oh yeah, everybody sounds the same. No. But when you try to synthesize it, which they did, then suddenly without the noise, it becomes so much less interesting. You see what I mean? Like I can tell you're not, it's like when AI image, you know what I mean? AI people, I guess you can call them that, right? They don't look as interesting as people. And I think that I write a little bit, I'm trying to write about this in terms of art, which is, that's the funny thing, is that you have to understand imperfections to engage with our minds. And the more perfect things are, it's actually more disturbing, because you know what I mean? It's all these warts and lumps that make us unique, and that's what we're tuned for, if you know what I mean. So when you see a perfect person, absolutely symmetrical, even skin tone with, whatever, you're like, oh, that's weird. That's a weird person. Like that's unusual, right? That you got all these things, check boxes. And I think the thing is, the AI is more tuned to that, because you get a many more pictures of people who are perfect.
But then there's the other side of the coin, right? Like the perfection is kind of certainly there, as a good point. But then, if let's say in the music world again, you let's say you have a circle of 5, which is the kind of like a canon progression of chords. So if you let the model to do like a dumb probabilistic operation on the circle of 5, you will get something that sounds good, and you will kind of appreciate this because the model is so simplistic, but it works. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that sometimes that perfection is kind of like a necessary layer, right? And then maybe on top of those chords you will add the distortion effect, and then now you are talking, right? So
endless fun. But what you're saying about the circle 5s, you might not get giant steps out of it, right? Which is this weird harmonic, incredibly difficult to play, because humans, or John Coltrane could think this way, but most people can't think this way of how to intermodulate, right? So he played this huge game, and when you listen to the tune, you're like, oh, it sounds like a tune. But if you knew how it was constructed, it's very unintuitive, I guess. But that's such a good ending spot, as always, Jack.
Yeah, finishing with John
still
Coltrane
more to talk about, but
fantastic.
we're all right. We're gonna do agentic. I'm gonna use this advent of what is it? Design. Wait. Superintelligence around the corner. Frontier models continue to scale. New wave autonomous AI agents is emerging, perceiving, reasoning, and acting in open-ended environments. These are the first steps toward AGI, promising. Yes. So this will be our shot across the bow of all the Blade Runner references that we can make.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Super cool. All right. Always appreciated. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Until next time.
Until next time. Cheers. I'm copying and pasting. Okay. Cheers.
Bye.